Today, we return to the trenches to talk about my top offensive tackles in the 2024 NFL Draft. And in general, this offensive line class is just phenomenal. It is a great year to need offensive line help. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive deep into these hog mollies. Word? At number 10, I have Patrick Paul out of Houston, coming in at 6'8", 331 pounds, and his older brother is actually already in the NFL. He's currently playing guard for the Washington Commanders, though I think it's safe to say Patrick's going to be a higher draft pick, as his brother Chris was a 7th rounder in the 2022 NFL Draft. But when it comes to Patrick, he's got great size, but he's also a pretty good athlete at that size, and no kidding, you got great length, 36.25-inch arms. So the tools are kind of like alluring when it comes to Paul. However, there is a lot of rawness to his game, like more so out there at the tackle spot. He is just kind of an obstacle to get around because he presents a wide base and he uses that length to cover a lot of ground, a lot of area. But even when defenders try to go right through him, I think he shows a good anchor. And he shows quick hands. Like, there might be some rawness with those hands, but they're quick. And he does a good job of using his hands to reestablish leverage and when he needs to, reestablish his anchor. And he also brings a ton of experience to the table, as he's been a 3-year starter, would have been a 4-year starter if not for a season-ended leg injury in 2020. And on top of that, like, coaches, his teammates, they just rave about his attitude, his leadership. So there's like a lot to like here on top of those alluring tools. But you got to understand, you're working a little bit with, I don't want to say a ball of clay, because I think there's a lot of bad habits there. There really, really is. Like when it comes to like the footwork can be a bit heavy and a bit all over the place, a little clunky. When it comes to how he uses his hands, like you saw it at the Senior Bowl. This man attacks with wide hands. You'd like to see him get inside and not just leave his chest, his strike zone open. And on top of that, when you're that tall, you're probably going to struggle to continually get leverage, and you're just going to constantly be out leveraged. And he does have that tall tackle problem, as he just can't sink his hips consistently low, and he just struggles to, well, gain and maintain leverage. And part of that, like, I feel like sometimes he's late to come off the snap or late to react. Kind of plays more reactive than proactive when it comes to pass rushers. But I like the ability in the run game, and maybe not necessarily someone you can start off early, but if you can, he might be able to get by on his tools. Like, that's why, like, Braxton Jones was like the first guy to really pop into my head, on top of the 36-inch arms. But coming out of Southern Utah, he was just this long guy that had some traits, ended up started relatively early, and now he's a part of like one of the best young tackle duo in the NFL there in Chicago with Darrell Wright. At number 9, I have Jordan Morgan out of Arizona, coming in at 6'5", 311 pounds, and honestly probably would have been in the 2023 NFL Draft if not for a torn ACL to end this season, because he was a first-team All Pac-12 in 2022, and it was just rinse and repeat this year for him. And there is actually quite a bit to like about him, and I think I first want to go with a little bit of the negatives and why people might be kind of like back and forth with what type of prospect Morgan is, because there are going to be teams that see him as a guard. Though I think I would be willing to try him out at tackle first and kind of let him fail there before you kick him into guard. But honestly, I think he has the ability to be really good at both. But you're first going to worry about the lack of length. He ends up coming out with sub 33-inch arms. Not to say that's something that he can't overcome, as I mean, there's guys like Rashawn Slater and Penei Sewell who are really good athletes and were able to overcome sub 33-inch arms. And if you're going to overcome that, typically you have to be a good athlete. So I think Morgan can do that. And I also list here a lack of play strength, and it's really functional play strength because the guy's powerful. He's got a powerful build. Like, he can really have some power behind, some pop behind his hands. And I think a lot of that maybe is just like, I don't want to say technique wise, but it does kind of come down to technique. Like in pass protection, he kind of has this like nasty habit where he kind of like, instead of like attacking, you know, kind of like rocks his arms back and then comes in. Like he kind of loads up. And it's like, hey, you don't really need to do that, buddy. You really don't. Causes your hands to come in delayed and just gives the defender, like you're giving them the first move, you're giving them the first attack. And I was just talking about it with Patrick Paul. You're playing too reactive than proactive, though. I mean, in his case, you're loading up and you're kind of waiting there. The lack of length does show up in the run game because he can become a bit of a lunger, and you actually see that a little bit in the passing game as well, as he'll trying to be first to the point of attack, and just sometimes he just can't because of a lack of length there. But listen, there is a ton to like about him. There truly is. He's a very agile mover, plays with a good lower body strength, good contact. You hardly find this guy on the ground, and he's able to absorb hits. Like, if anything, I wish he was a little bit like, I wish he would attack a little bit more in pass protection. He does feel a little bit docile at times, and the hands don't feel as active as they can be. But he can eat contact and like keep his balance, and like he plays low too, sinks the hips. You see the flexibility in him, and he plays with his head on a swivel. Like, he's got a good kick slide. He understands blocking angles. He's constantly looking for busy work. If there's really no one lined up in front of him or in his area, he's looking for those twists, those stunts. And like, all in all, like, I feel like even if teams do see him as a guard, they'll probably see him like in a Matthew Bergeron mold, who ended up going like, I think early to mid second round there out of Syracuse. And I saw him as a tackle in the NFL, but he's been a solid guard there. He was a solid guard at Atlanta for his rookie year. So I honestly think he could probably succeed both spots. So yeah, I think Matthew Bergeron ends up kind of being a pretty solid comp for him, now that I think about it. Listen, I know you love the NFL draft as much as I do, and you're going to want a nice hefty watch list of players during this college football season. Well, go ahead, check out my draft guide. You can purchase it for only $30 by Venmoing or PayPaling me. Links in the description. It's a one-time payment, and you get it for this whole draft cycle and forever and always. Technically, it's a Google spreadsheet, so send me your email when you send the payment. I'll get you hooked up. You will see my current prospect rankings and big board, my full evals, and guess what? It updates throughout the whole draft cycle. So it's a great purchase, and it's a great way to support the channel. At number 8, I have Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU, coming in at 6'5", 326 pounds. He was initially at Oregon his freshman season before, I guess, becoming homesick and decided to transfer to BYU, but he's been fairly effective at BYU, playing both right tackle and left tackle this past season. However, you got to understand, you're dealing with a very raw prospect. You truly are. So he's a guy that probably could kick into guard if you need him to, has experience on both sides of the line, but he possesses a great combination of power, length, speed, just size. You love the tools. The tools are absolutely there. He plays with that NFL nasty where he wants to bury guys in the run game. He shows some flexibility, like he's able to sink low. He has a strong anchor, shows really good acceleration. Like, if anything, maybe when he's like slow to get to landmarks, I think that's more of a like recognition, or more, it's more of a just getting a better nuance of the position. Because like I said, we're dealing with a very raw prospect, because you can tell he's very, very uncomfortable in pass protection. And you saw it at the Senior Bowl. There were plenty of losses there to be had. The hand usage is really all over the place. He can definitely use his length a little bit better. He attacks with these wide hands that just kind of open up the strike zone, allow defenders to get under your pads, and essentially control the rep. The footwork is a bit plotted at times. As you can tell, this is where like the kick into guard might sound feasible, because there were multiple times where he was just beaten on the corner by Disa Isaac at the Senior Bowl. And to be fair, Isaac had a really good week that week. He did that to a few people, but it's like, man, you got to get out there a little bit earlier in your kick slide. You can't be lumbering, because I know he's a better athlete than that. He tested as a better athlete than that. So you kind of got to know you're dealing with a raw prospect. And that's why the Austin Jackson comp really hits home for me as a Dolphins fan. Someone who really didn't emerge until this contract year. So how long will it take for things to click for Suamataia? Only time will tell. And that's why I'm kind of hesitant as him as a first round prospect. At number 7, I have Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma, coming in at 6'8", 322 pounds. And I could see why people have this guy as high as like a top 15 in mock drafts, because there is a lot to like about him. He's got a nice long build. He packs a lot of power on that frame, and he actually wears it really, really well. And he is probably one of the most elite athletes when on the field. I know that didn't really show up in the testing, but you turn on the tape and you see a guy that moves like a tight end. He just moves exceptionally well. He's got the quickness to match more finesse edge rushers, and he moves well laterally. He moves well when getting to the second level. He's able to hit his landmarks on time. He's shown flexibility to be able to sink despite being a taller tackle, being able to sink and get leverage. And as a run blocker, he just fires off the line of scrimmage like so well. And he's got the power to be able to displace defenders. It's just you wish you saw more of that fire in him, and you just wish you saw more of that on tape. And then he's got versatility on both sides, because back in 2022 he played, I think, like 4 games at left tackle, mainly been a right tackle since, though missed some time because of injury. So it's not like he's got a ton of significant snaps on tape. It's just what we've kind of talked about with like guys like Kingsley Suamataia, Patrick Paul. He's just exceptionally raw from his hand usage. Just doesn't use his length well, attacks with wide hands. He struggles with the tall tackle problem. Like I say that he can sink, but a lot of times he does play with high pads, and you also see the recognition, just missing landmarks, missing stunts, missing blitzes. But what separates him, and what I think is going to separate him from guys like Patrick Paul and Kingsley Suamataia, and maybe some of the other guys who have pretty intriguing tools in this class, like Kieran Amagaji and maybe like a Garrett Greensfield, Blake Fisher, is how coachable he showed himself to be at the Senior Bowl. He didn't have, like, let's not act like he wasn't losing at the Senior Bowl. He had a ton of losses at the Senior Bowl, but he would come back after a loss, coach would get in his ear, and then he would go and show the adjustments and win a rep. The problem is it kept being this lose, win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, win. Kept going back and forth. But I bet you, especially the coaches that were there, coaching him, they're gonna be like, "Hey, man, we can develop this guy, get him into a full camp. We can iron out those things, and he could be a starter fairly quickly." I truly do believe that when it comes to Tyler Guyton, that there is a lot of intrigue when it comes to him. And it did make me think of like Jamal Brown, another Oklahoma tackle back in the day, who was coming to the league with all these tools and whatnot. Last year, I was a big fan of Anton Harrison. Anton Harrison was definitely a more complete player, but Guyton, better athlete, more strength. Like there's just more tools there to work with. And if you really believe that you can iron out those wrinkles in his game sooner rather than later, then yeah, we're going to see this guy probably get drafted highly. I may not be there yet. I may see him more as like a back end of the first round, a guy to take a shot on, or maybe early to mid second round. But there's no denying the tools. At number 6, I have JC Latham out of Alabama, coming in at 6'6", 342 pounds. And it's funny, before I started recording this today, I was watching the franchise guy, his offensive tackle rankings. And when he got to Neal, he was like, oh, I'm just going to say it. I think there's a high likelihood of this guy being a bust out there at tackle. And I kind of laughed to myself because I put Evan Neal as the comp, and Evan Neal was a guy I was so confident of coming into the league, who right now seemingly is a bust. And it's important to know why, know what areas, what hasn't translated in the NFL for Evan Neal, because it's a lot of the same things that I think could cause JC Latham not to work in the NFL. So let's first kind of recap some of the good when it comes to him, because he's a big boy. He's a big boy, and honestly, I think he's got relatively good movement skills. Like, I like how he looks in pass protection athletically. I like how he moves as a run blocker. Athletically, I think it's there. It's just there's no killer instinct from him. He overextends a ton, and I mean, that was a big thing with Evan Neal, man. Evan Neal was a big-time lunger, and it would even drip into pass protection where he would overextend because he wants to be the first at the point of attack, and he would get caught off balance. So that's something that might be the first thing you want to iron out when it comes to JC Latham. But on top of that, a guy that just dips his head upon engagement, and you just don't like seeing that because some people might think, oh, it's probably a lack of core strength, which that's kind of fair, but I don't think that's the case for Latham, man. I just think I don't know. I honestly don't know. Just when you dip your head in engagement like that, you're going to get got. That's just the stone cold truth of things. And I think what probably will make him, because I honestly think he's probably one of the most likely, like currently kind of a consensus top 20 prospect for a lot of people. I think just that lack of that NFL nasty at his size and with his power is going to get him outside of the top 20. The NFL is just not going to dig that, because sometimes when it comes, this is how I approach it, at least. Like, I think it's a lot easier to take these guys who are overtly physical and having to teach them to reel it back. I think that's a lot easier than having to put that into somebody that's just not their nature. If it's not their nature to be physical, then it's going to be hard getting them to be more physical. I think it's easier just to kind of reel that back and reel that in. But I mean, there's a lot of good traits when it comes to JC Latham. Like, you like the length, 35 1/8 inch arms. He's got active hands. He hits with pop. I just wish you would see that in the move. Quick feet. And overall, I think he's got a good understanding of like blocking angles. Like, I think he's going to be a really good pass protector early on in the NFL. I know some people kind of question, is that going to be at the guard or the tackle position? And with that, I kind of worry because, like, 6'6", man, you're starting to get a little tall to be a guard. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. Every time I go through my tackle rankings, I always had JC Latham kind of on the outside looking in. And that just never really changed. I mean, even coming into the season, after my summer evals, I was like, I feel like just based on tools, he's like a back end of the first round guy. He's a first round guy. It's just, again, he just doesn't have that little bit of nasty to him, especially at your size, and just little things, whether it's, again, dipping your head in contact or overextending, which, I mean, to be fair, a lot of tackles coming from college to the NFL, overextending is kind of a big problem. But I feel like with Latham, it's something that's a lot more noticeable, because you can definitely see it where the contact balance is a problem. He ends up on the ground more times than you would like to see. At number 5, I have Taliese Fuaga out of Oregon State, coming in at 6'6", 324 pounds. And I gotta give a shout out to Alex from Hail Mary Sports. I remember when we were doing our summer evals, and he was like, man, Fuaga's great. I'm going to have him as a top 10 prospect to start off the year. And I was like, oh, wow. I mean, he's a good run blocker, but I don't know, man. I don't see it. I don't see it just yet. I think there's a ways for him to go in pass protection. And to be fair, he made some leap and strides as a pass protector. I mean, so much so, he was a second-team All-American this past year. Now he's consistently talked about as a top 10, top 15 prospect. And I'll get to it a little bit later. I think there's some areas he definitely needs to get better at as a pass blocker, but you're dealing with a nasty, nasty run blocker. Like, the dude is so good. You love the grip strength, the pop in his hands. Like, the dude is mean, and he shows so much quickness. Like, the foot speed is radically different as a run blocker than it is as a pass protector. And that's why I came up with the comp of Caleb McGarry, who I think is very underrated in the NFL. I was shocked that he didn't get a bigger contract last year, deciding to return to Atlanta, but he is definitely one of the more underrated run blockers in the NFL. He is really good in that regard. However, with Fuaga, while he did make some developments as a pass protector, there's still some things you're kind of curious if it'll work out for him in the NFL, or maybe does he need to make the shift to guard, as his kick slide in general, like kind of a short strider. So his kick slide doesn't necessarily get the necessary depth, and it has resulted in a lot of holding penalties as he's kind of given up outside leverage to the defender. And then on top of that, another guy who wants to be first at the point of attack, so he kind of overextends in pass pro. Some of that could be on his length, but he hits that 33-inch arm threshold. But is it enough for him? That's kind of going to be a bit of a question. And also in pass protection, honestly, he can get got by quicks. He really, really can. Sometimes his feet just aren't quick enough, and he's not flexible enough to keep some of these guys at bay. I know he's been a right tackle for like the last 2 seasons. There's going to be questions. Can he play on the left side, or do you even want to go there when it comes to him? But like, at the end of the day, man, I got him at 18 on my big board. I think he's a hell of a good prospect and a hell of a good tackle class. At number 4, I have Amarius Mims out of Georgia, coming at 6'8", 340 pounds. And entering the season, I was saying, hey, I will not be shocked when it's all said and done if Mims is a top 10 player, because the tools are that outrageous when it comes to Mims. And I mean, coming into the year, we only had 2 games of film on him. They were both in the playoffs where he dominated against Ohio State. And the film was just super impressive when it came to him, that you were willing to bet on those 2 games. And unfortunately, when we got to the season, he had an ankle injury that required tightrope surgery. He did return, but then he re-aggravated in the SEC championship game. So now we really only have this 8-game sample size when it comes to Mims, but we still talk about him as a first rounder because the tools are that alluring. He is a huge individual with great length. We're talking about 36 and 1/8 inch arms. I mean, the traits are already desirable. The more impressive thing about him is his movement skills. Like, I already knew at that size, yes, you better play strong, and he does. He surely does. You love the play strength when it comes to Mims. But the movement skills, that's why I put, he looks like Goliath, but he moves like David. He moves like a much smaller individual. Like, he doesn't have slow feet. He plays with control. He plays with good balance. And when he initiates contact, he's almost always first at the point of attack because of that length. And he literally hits like a brick. So, like, all this just screams like this guy has the makings to be a star. However, you just have that lack of experience when it comes to him. And I notice I'm picking my words very, very strictly, very importantly, very intently, because he lacks experience, and it's not necessarily it's not necessarily he lacks like polish or there's rawness to his game. Like, yeah, I think the hands could be a bit better with him. The hand usage could be a bit better. He does look a little bit awkward sometimes working back in pass pro, but this is just kind of nitpicking because like when you turn off on the film, this cat hardly really has losses to his name. You are going to worry about at his size, can he consistently get low and consistently get leverage? Is that going to be a problem for him? Though he's flexible enough for me to be like, I'm not that concerned. Ultimately, I ended up going with like Cam Robinson, another guy who was a very toolsy, very traitsy individual. Though I mean, Mims just, I feel like entering the league, like Mims' movement skills are just leagues better than what Cam Robinson's were. But like regardless, I'm still high on Mims. I'd still be willing to take a shot on him. I will not be shocked if he ends up being the third or even the second tackle taken off the board. At number 3, I have Olu Fashanu out of Penn State, coming in 6'6", 312 pounds. And I mean, entering the year, this was a cat that was talked about as OT2 or OT1. And now it seems like that this tackle class has gone so deep and he's kind of got lost in the shuffle. And I'm here to tell you, this guy's really good. And I'm here to remind you why he's so good. Now, people are going to say, oh, his play strength sucks. I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of his instability with his anchor or when he's pushed into the pocket, like because everyone references that Ohio State game, a lot of that had to do with leverage because there's no denying this guy plays tall. He plays with big pads or tall pads, and he lets defenders get up under those pads. He loses the leverage game. And if you're going to give up leverage to a guy like JT Tuimoloau, who he's got length, he's got strength, he's got leg drive, then yeah, you're going to have a rough day at the office. And I think that was a large part of it because I do see the play strength in his frame. He typically sets a pretty solid anchor, and he's got some strikes. He truly, truly does. He's got some power behind his blows. But probably the best asset when it comes to Fashanu is just how quick he is for the position. Like he is a very good athlete, and he just fires out of his stance. He plays with really quick feet, and you'll hardly really ever see this guy being put on ice skates. Like he shows really good balance. He is a very easy mover, both vertically and horizontally, and his ability to really just get out of the blocks and win angles within like the first 2 to 3 steps of drop backs just kind of allows him to erase pass rushers and their pass rush moves. Like he does a really good job of putting his entire frame in front of the defender and mirroring defenders. Like, and this is a guy that's a student of the game. Like he has received such high praise from his coaches for his work ethic, for his film study. And I even get to like how well he typically plays with his hands. Like, he does a really good job of just winning hand fights. He really does. Now, some of the, I guess we would say some of the bad is, like I already talked about, playing with the high pads, losing the leverage game. I don't think he really plays with a mean streak in the run game. Like he's more of a mauler than an actual striker. And now he's got these like very low percentile hands, like hand size, 8.5. So it's like, okay, you may pack a lot of power, but how much pop are you really going to be able to get when your hands do hit home? There's going to be some worry. There's going to be concern with that. But I think the potential of Fashanu in the NFL is very, very alluring. I got my comp currently as like a Christian Darrisaw, who I really liked coming out of Virginia Tech. I see, at least athletically, a lot of similarities in their game. At number 2, I have Troy Fautanu out of Washington, coming at 6'4", 317 pounds. And it's been an interesting road to get where we're at when it comes to Fautanu, because I think coming into the year, a lot of people thought he was going to end up being a guard in the NFL, despite being a left tackle the last 3 seasons. And I mean, that suddenly turned into like, oh, he's the top interior prospect in this class. It got to the point where people were like, okay, even if the length is subpar, maybe you still let this guy play tackle, see how it goes, and you could always move him into guard. And then he goes to the combine and we're like, oh my gosh, he's got 34.5-inch arms? Oh yeah, no, we're totally trying this guy at tackle. And if it doesn't go well, then we can move him to guard. Hey, I was in that boat myself. I was kind of shocked at how long he actually was. And the dude's a great athlete. He is made for today's blocking schemes because like 3/4 of the NFL is running a majority of outside zone, wide zone blocking schemes. And the movement skills are truly, truly great with him. You see very, very quick, very feisty feet, very quick, very feisty hands. I love the leg drive. Golly. I'm a sucker for anyone who will not stop their feet on contact. I think that translates to whatever position you're playing. And he does that, and he does that very, very well. I think he's at his best when in motion, when in movement. Because he does have that NFL mentality. He wants to bury guys in the run game. I mean, so much so he kind of overextends sometimes on runs, and it kind of causes some balance issues here and there. But I do think if you're going to be drafting him, you better be a zone heavy, outside zone heavy blocking scheme. Because I just don't think he has the play strength. I know people are going to be like, well, I mean, look at the 29 reps on the bench. He had his pro day. And I'm like, yeah, well, you go to the tape in. As a pass protector, he can be a little light in the pants. As a run blocker, if he is running some of these power concepts, sometimes the leg drive just isn't good enough. Like, there's no doubt in, for me, the upper body strength. I think the upper body strength with him is immense. And where he's kind of let down is just by the lower body, where it just kind of, again, it feels light in the pants when it comes to that. And I mean, I think that's actually a good reason why sometimes he finds himself on the ground, or why the contact balance can be a little bit inconsistent. I ended up going with Roger Saffold as a comp, a guy who played tackle early in his career and eventually ended up moving to guard. But I thought he was a cat that was just ridiculously good as a outside zone scheme blocker, whether he was at tackle or guard. In my opinion, I could see Fautanu kind of going the same route.
At number 1, I have Joe Alt out of Notre Dame, coming in at 6'9", 321 pounds, and the bloodlines run deep when it comes to Joe Alt. If you're unfamiliar, his daddy was a former offensive lineman at Iowa. He went on to be a first-round pick in the 1984 NFL draft by the Kansas City Chiefs, and he has been breeding. He has been developing his son since an early age. And like he knows the importance of athleticism at the offensive tackle position. So much so that he kept Joe Alt a tight end for as long as he could, so he could have that athleticism. So much so, I mean, Joe Alt's first year at Notre Dame, he was acting as kind of a tight end to more of a swing or a sixth offensive lineman, but still, and you could tell by the agility scores. You look at the explosive numbers, the 5.05 40-yard dash. Yeah, Joe Alt has got other movement skills. He's been a first-team All-American the last 2 seasons. There's so much to love when it comes to Joe Alt. The length, the size, the killer instinct as a blocker, the power, the hand usage. He might have the most advanced hands in this class. He uses his hands so darn well. I kind of talked about that quick twitch movement for a lineman his size. He's just so light in his feet. Got the nasty mentality as a run blocker, wanted to bury guys 6 feet deep. Reminiscence of The Undertaker, hit that gong. By no means is he a perfect prospect, but he's a hell of a good prospect. We can nitpick things here and there. Oh, he's tall. He's going to struggle with leverage. He's going to have the tall tackle problem. oh, he's got this massive strike zone. He doesn't always keep his feet churning when in contact, more noticeable as a run blocker. There's times where he overextends and affects his balance. But like, again, these are little nitpicks. You go to his games, like the guy is just a phenomenal prospect. Big reason why he was OT1 for me entering the summer or entering the 2023 college football season. Big reason why he was a top 5 prospect for me at that time and why he still is. He's a hell of a prospect. I think he is. I don't want to say leagues, but I think there's a clear tier between Joe Alt and the rest of the tackles in this phenomenal tackle class. I decided the comp, hey, let's go back to Notre Dame. Let's get an old head, not necessarily an old head, but Mike McGlinchey. He's still in the league. He's with the Broncos. But I thought they have some good comparisons there. But I know you want more draft content, and I got more draft content. Check out some of my other prospect ranking videos down here. And as always, until next time, be easy, my friends. Later.